Hello, hi, namaste. If you can know or understand everything about report writing, 5 marks will be yours. What is line graph? How you write it and what you write? This is very tricky. How to score 5 out of 5? Red line indicates paddy and blue line indicates cotton production. The more you complicate it, the less marks you get in your examination. Hello, hi, namaste and welcome to Vidhyaashram, Temple of Excellence. I am Nanda Kishore, Faculty of English in Vidhyaashram, Mysuru. In my previous session, I had discussed about how to comprehend the passage which will be asked for 10 marks in your board examination. In today's session, I will be discussing about how to write report or simply known as report writing. This topic will be asked for 5 marks in your board examination, and don't worry, this is not a compulsory question, but it is better if you know this report writing, because you will have a choice between report writing and speech writing. So let's start with report writing today. So what is report writing? As I told you, this question will be asked for 5 marks in your English board examination. So if you can master this, if you can know or understand everything about report writing, 5 marks will be yours. Report writing is an important writing skill which covers a number of areas like science, technology, current affairs, reviews, etc. So what is report writing basically? It is a writing skill, and what does it cover? It covers fields like science, technology, current affairs, reviews, and lot more. So what do you interpret in report writing? As you know, report writing is a writing skill, and what do you interpret? You have to interpret graphs. Graphs and charts communicate information visually. Therefore, graphs are often used in newspapers, magazines, and business reports around the world. So there will be a lot of reports. So based on the reports, you will have to write something looking at the data which is available, be it on the question paper or be it on something else. So you are going to look at the data available on the sheet and you have to interpret the data. It could be graphs or any data, and you have to write few words on that. So what are the types of graphs? I told you report writing is a writing skill, and what do you interpret? You interpret graphs. And what types of graphs are there? How many types of graphs are there? There are 3 types. First one is line graph, second one is bar graphs, and third one is pie chart. Remember, in your examination, they are going to ask any one of these. So be prepared to attempt any one of these questions for 5 marks in your examination. Let me give you a special instruction. Those who are preparing for supplementary English examination, this session will definitely be useful and it will help you to score 5 marks. So let us start with line graph. What is line graph now? Line graphs are diagrams that present data using dots and lines. So line graph just doesn't mean that you will be seeing only lines. It could also be dots. So they will be using dots and lines to interpret the data, and the diagram is going to make use of dots and lines. One variable is indicated on the vertical line, and the other is indicated on the horizontal line. So this is vertical and this is horizontal line. Keep this in mind. Next is bar graph. So what is bar graph or bar diagram? So bar graph can be either vertical or horizontal. It is important to read the labels carefully on each other. Usually there will be lines, as I told you, and there will be bars. So these are bar diagrams. So there will be 2 variables and you need to read the labels carefully on each bar. The third one is pie chart. What is pie chart? A pie chart shows relationships between parts to a whole. The whole is contained in the circle, which is known as pie, and divided into appropriate sized proportion or slices. So pie chart is usually in circle and they will be divided. There will be different variants, and depending on the data available, you have to look at it and interpret the data. How do you interpret? We got to know what is report writing and what are you going to interpret, how many types of graphs, and how do you interpret now? Interpretation of a graph involves reading. First thing, you need to read. Understanding, as soon as you read, you need to understand, and expressing the data represented in a verbal medium. If you didn't understand this, let me simplify it further. In other words, after consulting the graph, you must be able to transfer the data into a report in the form of a paragraph of about 120 to 150 words. So if you can just interpret the data, it could be the line graph or the bar graph or the pie chart. Any of these three can be questioned in your public examination. If you are able to write 150 words, then you will definitely get 5 marks. But how you write it and what you write is very important from the examination point of view. There are tips to write a report. Now, we saw many things, and most importantly, you need to learn what are the tips for writing a report. While writing a report, take into account the following. Keep this in mind. You need to remember this. Title. There will be title given. The kind of information found on the graph. Title, it will be lying in your question. Key. Additional information included in the graph. Scale tells how many or how much. So I will be explaining these three topics as we go on to the question. Axis lines. Vertical axis runs along the side of the graph and horizontal axis runs along the bottom of the graph. Bar lines describe individual parts of the graph. So let us see what all these 5 tips mean. Just take a look at this. This is the question that I have taken from June 2020 English examination, and this pie chart was questioned for 5 marks in your board examination. Just have a look at it. There are different variables and there are different blocks, and each of the block and each of the variable is giving you a clear indication. Education 20%, food and clothing 40%, and what are these? These variables are nothing but the pie chart given below clearly represents the income and expenditure of an urban family in a metropolitan city. Based on the information, write a report about 120 words. So if you can see to my left, there is a question, and in this question you can see that they are giving you the clear information about what the pie chart represents. It is income and expenditure of a urban family, which you can see here. So this pie chart is representing the income and expenditure of urban family in metropolitan city, not just in village, not in town, or not in any district. It is in metropolitan city. How do urban family spend their money? By looking at this chart, you should be able to get the information out of this pie chart. So how do you get the information? Once you read it, you can understand. So this is the radius, and if you just add on to this 40 plus 20, it is 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So the radius of 100% is bifurcated or divided accordingly. So if you look at this pie chart, you should be able to understand that urban family is spending more on food and clothing. Out of 100%, maximum number of amount is spent on food and clothing. Next comes education, where they are spending 20%. Next comes health and entertainment and savings and repaying loan, where all the 4 topics are equally bifurcated for 10% each. Now, looking at this data, you should be able to write 120 to 150 words. How do you start writing? This is very tricky. How to score 5 out of 5 in English board examination? You start looking at this pie chart and start interpreting. How to use the words? You should have a strong vocabulary. If you take my suggestion, you need to have a strong vocabulary. A student who knows how to use multiple words and flowery words while interpreting the data will be able to score 5 marks. So let us start interpreting this pie chart. There is one more instruction I would like to give for those students who cannot construct or frame meaningful English sentence. You can just look at this pie chart and start writing. Just take these words, income and expenditure of an urban family in metropolitan city. Now you can start writing, the family in urban or metropolitan city spend 40% on food and clothing. One sentence, one simple sentence is finished. They spend 20% on education, full stop. And when it comes to health, make use of different parts of speech. You can use preposition, you can use conjunction, and you can use noun, you can use verb. Make use of different vocabulary. So that's how you can write 120 to 150 words. When it comes to health, they only use or only spend 10%. And people in metropolitan city, they give equal importance for entertainment as well. And when it comes to saving, they only tend to save less because it is consisting of 10%. And not just that, they also consider repaying the loan, which is equal amount of rest 3. So if you write this, you will definitely get 2.5 marks or 3 marks. But how to score 5 marks? Let us see that. If you want to score 5 marks, before interpreting this data, just by heart some quotes or by heart some proverbs. You can make use of proverbs, you can make use of any quotes which is told by some important prominent person. So if you include those quotes and if you include those proverbs, so this will carry more weightage. So you can start interpreting the data with a quote. It is not a wrong thing to do in your examination. So let us start solving in order to score 5 marks. People in metropolitan city tend to spend more on food and clothing, which consists of 40%. So as you know, this radius is 100% and maximum number of percentage is spent on food and clothing, which consists of 40%. So next comes 20% where they are spending it on education. This shows the difference between how well they are giving prominence to education. They are spending 20% of amount or income on education and 40% of income on food and clothing. But when it comes to health, they are not much worried about their health, which shows that they are only spending 10% of their income. So this can also be interpreted in different way. So this also shows that people in metropolitan city are not sick, which means indirectly, in other words, they are very strong and they are very immune and they need not spend much of their savings on health. But when it comes to entertainment, they are spending equal amount of their expenditure, which comes up to 10%. And entertainment can be watching movies or spending money on any leisurely time. Saving. When it comes to saving, metropolitan city people or people in metropolitan city, they don't tend to save much because it only comprises of 10%. So with this 10%, are they happy? Few people may be happy and few are not. Don't forget that most of the people in metropolitan cities might have borrowed the loans, might have taken some debts from the bank. So they are considering repaying the loans, which consists of 10%. And all these put together, we come to the conclusion that majority of their income is spent on food and clothing, and next category falls on education, and the rest 4 comprises equal amount of expenditure, which comes up to 10% each. So this is how you can interpret the data. If you cannot I'm not just saying that what I'm teaching here is ultimate. So with these words, you can just score 5 out of 5. You can improvise your version, you can improvise your answer. I'm just giving the answer, I'm interpreting in my own words. Why? Because I have to reach most of the students and it should be understandable even from the student who cannot write a single sentence. As I told you, you just take this individual part and write 4 to 5 sentences which you will be scoring 2 marks each. So let's move on to the exercise here. So this exercise is a line graph. The line graph given below shows the production ratio of cotton and paddy in multiple years. Use the information to write a report on the production ratio. Now this is the line graph. I have taken one blue and one red, and as you can see here, red line indicates paddy and blue line indicates cotton production, and this vertical line is in acres. Let us say that it is in tons of production, right? And the horizontal line, this bottom line is considered as horizontal line, and you can also see the year 1990, 1992, 1994 and 1996. So every couple of years, how does it fluctuate? This is a bar graph, this is a line graph, and you need to read all the contents carefully. You should know that blue line represents cotton and red line represents paddy, and the vertical line is a production in tons, and the horizontal line is the year of production. So let us see how to interpret. I am going to simplify the version here. I am going to make use of simple sentences so that you can improvise your own version of answers. In the year 1990, the production of paddy was 2.5 tons. So you are referring to the year 1990, and when it comes to year 1992, the production of paddy reaches to 4.5 tons, and there is a huge spike. You need to make use of vocabulary. There is a huge rise in the production of paddy. But when we reach to 1994, the production collapses. I am using different vocabulary. The words you make use will give the report a complete detail, and the production drastically collapses to 1.5 and not more than 2 tons. And when it comes to 1996, the production just leaps a bit and reaches nearly 3%. So I am making use of different words here: nearly, drastically, collapsing, taking rise. There is a spike in the rise of production. Now you are comparing. Compared to paddy, cotton production in the year 1990 was approximately 4.3%. And again cotton collapses to the level of 2.5 tons when it comes to 1992. And again there is a rise, gradual rise. I'm making use of different words. Again in the year 1994, there is a gradual rise in cotton production, where we can see that in the year 1994, the cotton production has reached 3.5 tons, and in the year 1996, it reaches the peak while the production was 4.5% or 4.5 tons. So this is how you use different words in order to give the report, in order to write the report or to interpret the data. If you cannot do this, if you cannot use vocabulary, I keep telling, make use of vocabulary, make use of different words. If you cannot use it, it is going to be of no use in order to score 5 marks in your examination. Next, let me move on to bar graph. This is an example. This is the exercise I have taken from the workbook. The following bar chart represents the results of a survey based on information about how rural and urban women spend the hours of their day for some chosen activities on an average. Based on this information, write a report in about 150 words. So you need to understand that rural and urban women, how do they spend their hours chosen on some activities on an average. As you can see here, blue bar is representing rural women, red bar is representing urban women, and this one is hours they are spending, the vertical line, and the horizontal line is representing the different activities where the urban and rural women are spending their hours. So let us see that. you know that this is rural women. Let me just simplify it. And this is urban women. How do you interpret the bar graph now? By looking at this graph, you can make use of different words. One can understand that rural women spend nearly 4.5 hours for cooking compared to urban women who will only spend 2.25 hours for cooking. Next comes watching TV. When it comes to watching TV, urban women tend to spend most of their time sitting in front of the television, which comes up to 3.5 hours or 3.5 hours, and urban women tend to have no time, and since it just comprises of 1.5 hours or 1.5 hours. Rural women may not have, or they don't find enough time in their daily lives to watch and spend the time in front of the TV. When it comes to the activity of hobby, rural women tend to have no time at all, or they tend to have no hobby at all, which comprises below half an hour. It could be just 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Hobbies could be very different. It could be singing, it could be dancing. Even today in rural, there are women who have a lot of hobbies, but they don't find time for the hobbies. But when it comes to urban women, at least they can spend 1.45 hours in their daily lives for the hobby. When it comes to rearing child, rural women somehow make time for 1 hour, and urban women have lot of leisure time. Maybe they will have homemaker, maybe they will have housemaid. It's because of that they tend to find more leisurely time for rearing children. So that comprises up to 1.4 hours again. And last, we have the activity of reading, and rural women, as per this bar graph, rural women, they spend nearly half an hour for reading compared to urban women, where urban women are spending nearly 1.5 hours for reading activity. So you can make use of different words and simplify it. No need to use extraordinary complicated words and sentences. The more you complicate it, the less marks you get in your examination. And the simplify you make it, the more marks you can score in your examination. So that is it for today's session. In my next session, I will be teaching you how to write a job application. I had been telling you that this job application will be questioned for 5 marks. So let's meet in the next session. Until then, see you. Take care.